The mountain wind howled through the pine trees as Alina Rodriguez adjusted her research equipment one final time. She had been studying extremophile bacteria in these remote peaks for 3 months. Far from civilization and exactly how she liked it, the solitude gave her peace that her chaotic laboratory back at the university never could. She was packing her samples when the sky exploded with light. A streak of brilliant blue fire tore across the evening sky, too slow for a meteor, too bright for any aircraft she knew. Lena watched in stunned silence as the object crashed somewhere beyond the ridge, sending a shockwave through the valley that rattled her teeth. Her scientific curiosity overrode her caution. Grabbing her emergency kit and headlamp, Alina hiked toward the crash site as darkness fell around her. The smell hit her first ozone and something else. Something metallic and foreign that made her nose burn. She found the crater in a clearing. Half a mile from her camp, what lay twisted in the center wasn't any human technology. The craft was organic-looking, its hull rippling with patterns that seemed to shift in her headlamp's beam. Steam rose from its surface. She could hear a low humming sound from within. Then she saw him. The being that emerged from the wreckage was tall, perhaps 7 feet, with skin that seemed to shimmer between silver and deep blue. His form was humanoid but elongated, with features that were both alien and strangely beautiful. Forearms moved with fluid grace as he tried to stand, and collapsed with a sound that needed no translation. Pain. Elena's heart hammered against her ribs. Every instinct screamed at her to run, to hide, to pretend she had never seen this. But the scientist in her, the healer in her, couldn't walk away from a wounded being. She stepped into the clearing, hands raised, speaking in the softest tone she could manage. "Hey, it's okay. I want to help." The alien's head snapped toward her, and she found herself staring into eyes like liquid starlight. For a moment that stretched into eternity, 2 species looked at each other across an impossible gulf. Fear flickered in those alien eyes, but also something else, hope. Alina knelt slowly beside him, her medical training taking over. His breathing was labored, and dark fluid that might have been blood seeped from wounds along his side. She had no idea if her human first aid would help or harm him, but she had to try. "My name is Alina," she whispered, beginning to clean his wounds with careful, gentle movements. "I'm going to help you." The alien watched her with those incredible eyes, and slowly, impossibly, his hand reached out to touch hers. His skin was warm, electric, sending tingles up her arm that had nothing to do with fear. He spoke then. Words in a language like music, like wind through crystal caves. Though she couldn't understand the words, the meaning was clear in his touch, in his eyes, in the way he didn't pull away from her care. "Thank you." Alina had never expected to carry an injured alien back to her research cabin, but life had a way of surprising her. Kethfer, she had learned his name through careful pointing and repetition, was stronger than he looked, even wounded. He moved with a fluid grace that made her clumsy human gait seem awkward. Inside her small cabin, she helped him onto her cot and began a more thorough examination. His wounds were serious but not fatal, at least she hoped not. As she worked, cleaning and bandaging with her limited supplies, she became acutely aware of how different, yet similar they were. His forearms gave him an advantage she envied as a researcher, and his skin felt like warm silk beneath her fingers. When she accidentally pressed too hard on a tender spot, he made a sound that was unmistakably a hiss of pain. When she smiled apologetically, something in his expression softened in a way that was utterly familiar. "You understand pain?" she murmured, mostly to herself. "We have that in common." Over the next 2 days, they developed their own language, pointing, gesturing, sharing expressions and emotions that needed no words. Alina showed him pictures from her research, and his eyes lit up with an intelligence that matched her own. He traced the molecular structures with one finger, nodding in recognition. On the 3rd evening, as she changed his bandages, Kethfer began to speak. His voice was like nothing she had ever heard, melodic with undertones that seemed to resonate. In her chest, though she couldn't understand the words, she heard the story in his tone. pain, loss, desperate flight. When tears formed in those starlight eyes, Alina didn't think. She reached out and gently touched his face, brushing away the moisture that fell like liquid silver the moment her skin touched his. The world exploded. Images flooded her mind, not her memories, but his. She saw worlds burning, ships fleeing through star-filled void, families torn apart by war. She felt his desperation, his loneliness, his fear of never finding home again. And underneath it all, she felt something else, a growing warmth directed at her. When the vision ended, they were both breathing hard. Cuthbert stared at her with wonder and something that might have been fear. He spoke rapidly, gesturing at their joined hands. Alina understood without words. People could share memories through touch. She had just experienced his deepest pain, and somehow he had felt hers too, her own loneliness, her dedication to science, her longing for connection. "It's okay," she whispered, not moving her hand from his face. "I understand now. You're running from war. You're alone, just like me." He leaned into her touch, and she felt that electric tingle again, stronger. Now, when he spoke again, his voice was softer, questioning. One of his hands came up to cup her cheek in return, and this time the contact was gentler. She saw herself through his eyes, not the awkward, bookish woman she thought she was, but someone brave and kind, someone who had risked everything to help a stranger, someone beautiful. The realization hit them both at the same time. This connection between them wasn't just gratitude or curiosity. It was something far more dangerous, far more impossible: attraction, desire, the beginning of love. The morning brought harsh reality crashing down on their fragile connection. Alina woke to find Cuthbert standing at her cabin window, his tall frame tense with alertness. He had healed remarkably fast, she noticed, but that wasn't what caught her attention. Helicopters circled in the distance, their rotors cutting through the mountain air like mechanical wasps. "They're looking for you," Alina whispered, her heart sinking. Calf's single quotes, VAR, turned to her, and she saw resignation in his luminous eyes. He spoke in his musical language, then touched her hand, sharing his meaning through their strange connection. His people would come for him soon. He would have to leave. But there was something else in his touch, something that made her breath catch. Images of his homeworld, of the people who had cast him out for believing that other species might be worthy of respect. Among his people, humans were considered primitive, barely above animals. Alina pulled her hand away, stung. "Primitive," she said aloud, hurt flashing through her. "Is that what you think of me?" The anguish in his expression was immediate and profound. Cuthbert dropped to his knees before her, all four hands reaching out in supplication. She hesitantly let him touch her again. The images that flowed between them took her breath away. She saw herself through his eyes again. But now she understood the magnitude of what he was showing her. In his culture, to find intelligence and beauty in a lesser species was not just unusual, it was forbidden. Revolutionary. It changed everything. He thought he knew about the universe. His people measured worth by telepathic ability, by the complexity of shared consciousness. But Alina, with her human brain, had shown him kindness when she had nothing to gain. She had risked herself for a stranger. She had seen past his alien appearance to the person within. "You're not primitive," he managed in broken English, the words clearly difficult for him. "You magnificent." The helicopters were getting closer. Alina made a decision that would change both their lives forever. Instead of running, instead of hiding, she pulled Cuthbert to her feet and led him to her research station. "If your people think humans are primitive," she said, calling up her work on the computer, "then let me show you what we're really capable of." For the next hour, Alina shared her world with him as he had shared his with her. She showed him human art, music, literature. She explained her research, the delicate balance of life she studied in these mountains. She played Beethoven and showed him photos of the aurora borealis, of deep ocean creatures, of the vast complexity of human civilization. With each revelation, Cuthbert's wonder grew. Through their touch connection, she felt his mind expanding, his preconceptions crumbling. When she played a recording of a child laughing, tears fell freely down his face. "Beautiful," he whispered, and she wasn't sure if he meant the sound or her. The helicopters were almost overhead now. Kethver stood and moved toward the door, but Alina caught his hand. The moment their skin connected, everything else fell away. This time the sharing was different, deeper, more intimate. She felt his longing, his desire, the way her presence had awakened something in him he hadn't known existed. And he felt hers, the attraction that had been growing since that first night, the impossible love that defied every law of biology and culture. When their lips met, it was electric, literally. Energy coursed between them, alien and human biology, creating something entirely new. She tasted starlight and ozone, and he tasted the salt of her tears and the sweetness of her breath. They broke apart as the first helicopter landed in the clearing outside. "I have to go," Kethver whispered against her forehead. "I know," Alina replied, her voice breaking. But as soldiers surrounded her cabin, both of them knew that this connection between them was too powerful to simply walk away from. Somehow, some way, they would find each other again. 3 weeks passed. In a blur of government interrogations and media chaos, Alina found herself at the center of humanity's first confirmed alien contact. But all she could think about was Kethver. Where was he? Was he safe? Would she ever see him again? She had her answer when she woke one night to find him standing in her bedroom, his form shimmering with that familiar, otherworldly light. "How?" she breathed, sitting up in bed. Through their touch connection, he showed her. His people had finally come for him, but they hadn't taken him home. Instead, they wanted to study this unprecedented connection between alien and human. Alina wasn't the only one fascinated by what had happened between them. "You're watching," he told her in English that was rapidly improving. "Always watching. Now. But I had to see you." Alina rose from her bed, wearing only a thin nightgown, suddenly self-conscious. But when Kethver looked at her, there was nothing but wonder and desire in his starlight eyes. He approached slowly, as if she might vanish like a dream. "I thought about you every moment," he whispered, his 4 hands reaching for her. "Your touch, your kindness, your brilliant mind. My people cannot understand how I could feel this way about a human, but I do. I love you, Alina." The words hung in the air between them, impossible and perfect. Alina felt tears streaming down her face as she reached for him. "I love you too. I know it's crazy. I know it's impossible, but I do." Their kiss this time was hungrier, more desperate. His hands roamed her body with reverent care, mapping every curve and hollow as if committing her to memory. She marveled at his alien beauty, the way his skin shifted colors with emotion, the fluid grace of his movements, the electric thrill of his touch. "Show me," she whispered against his neck. "Show me how your people love." Kethver's response was to deepen their mental connection. Suddenly Alina wasn't just feeling her own desire, but his as well. The sensation was overwhelming. 2 sets of emotions, 2 hearts beating as one. When he touched her, she felt it from his perspective as well as her own. They moved together to her bed. What followed was unlike anything either had experienced. Their lovemaking was both tender and passionate, a fusion of human emotion and alien grace. Through their mental bond, they shared every sensation. Every moment of pleasure magnified and reflected between them. Afterward, as they lay entwined, Alina traced patterns on his chest with her fingertip. "What happens now?" she asked softly. "Cat." It's silent for a long moment. Then, through their connection, he shared the truth. His rescue ship waited in orbit, hidden from human sensors. His people demanded his return, but they also wanted to understand this bond between species. There was talk of study, of experimentation, of separation. "They want to take you apart," Alina said, horrified. "Not apart. But they want to understand how a human could touch an alien mind so completely, how you could change me so fundamentally." His arms tightened around her. "I will not let them harm you." Alina was quiet, thinking. Then she sat up, her decision crystallizing. "Then don't let them. What do you mean?" She turned to face him fully, her eyes bright with determination. "Take me with you. I'm a xenobiologist. I study alien life." Here's the ultimate alien. Life form, offering to take me to the stars. How could I say no? Kethver stared at her in shock. Lena, you would be leaving everything. Your world, your people, your life. She smiled, touching his face gently. My life is with you now. Wherever that leads. The decision to leave Earth wasn't easy, but it was inevitable. Alina spent her last week tying up loose ends, writing letters to families she might never see again, preparing for a journey beyond imagination. Kethver's people were fascinated. By her choice? Through him, she learned that in their long history, no alien species had ever willingly joined them among the stars. Her courage impressed even those who had initially dismissed humans as primitive. The night before departure, Alina stood on her cabin porch one final time, looking up at stars that would soon be her new home. Kethver emerged from the shadows, no longer hiding from human satellites or searchers. Second thoughts? He asked gently. Alina turned to him, this magnificent being who had crashed into her life and changed everything. Never, she said firmly. But I want to remember this place. Remember where we found each other. They made love under the stars that final night, their connection deeper than ever. Through their bond, Alina could feel Kethver's wonder at her sacrifice, his determination. To prove her faith in him was not misplaced. And he felt her excitement, her joy at the adventure ahead, her complete trust in their love. The transport ship that came for them was beautiful. Beyond description, organic curves that seemed grown rather than built, surfaces that shifted with the light. As Alina stepped aboard, she felt the eyes of Kethver's people upon her, studying this strange human who had captured one of their own. But their scrutiny didn't matter. What mattered was Kethver's hand in hers as the ship lifted away from Earth, carrying them toward a future neither species had ever imagined. The journey to Nexari took months. Alina had never been happier. She worked alongside Kethver's people, sharing human knowledge while learning their sciences. Slowly, attitudes began to change. Her intelligence, her capacity for love, her essential humanity opened minds that had been closed for millennia. When they finally reached Nexari, Alina gasped at its beauty. Cities that floated in crystalline seas, towers that reached toward 3 different colored suns, beings of light and grace moving in harmony with their environment. It was everything she had dreamed and more, but the greatest gift came a year later when their first child was born, a perfect fusion of human and Nexarian traits. Proof that love truly could conquer any barrier. Alina stood on a balcony overlooking the crystal seas, holding her daughter, while Kethver's arms encircled them both. Their child had her dark eyes and his luminescent skin, 4 arms like her father, but human facial features. She was beautiful, impossible, and perfect. What will we call her? Kethver asked softly. Alina smiled, watching her daughter's eyes. Track the movement of Nazari's 3 sons. Hope, she said. We'll call her Hope. Below them, in the city squares, human ambassadors worked alongside Nexarian scientists, building bridges between worlds. Their love story had become legend, proof that connection could exist across any divide. Alina had left Earth as a lonely scientist. She had found among the stars something more precious than any discovery, a love that transcended species, family that defied every law of biology, and a future bright with possibility. As the 3 suns set over the crystal seas of Nexari, painting the sky in colors that had no names in any human language, Alina knew she was exactly where she belonged, in Kethver's arms under alien stars. With their impossible daughter sleeping peacefully between them, love had indeed conquered all.